Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Lubrication Across the Nation, brought to you by Dynamic Green Products. You can find out more information about everything they do at changeyouroil.com. Today, I have the honor and the privilege of having on the show one of the greatest carvers in existence. That's right, Josh Miller. Welcome, sir.
Oh, you're talking about me. You said one of the greatest in the nation.
I am. I know. I know it's hard to believe.
I was confused there for a second.
The Josh
You threw me off.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
And so, Josh, you are located up in Delaware, in the Delaware area. Are you from Delaware?
So I'm kind of like a mutt a little bit, but from the eastern shore of Maryland, which is right across the line from Delaware. But I was born in Arkansas. We were living down in Arkansas at the time. My dad was working a job down there. So that's where I was born. And then we came back up this way, grew up in right outside of Chestertown, Maryland. And then out of school, I kind of went quite a few different places. And then we settled back here in Delaware. Not too far down the road from where my dad grew up.
Nice. And you are, as I mentioned, you are a carver extraordinaire. How long have you been chainsaw carving?
I got started back in 2014. Was not looking to get into it by any means. I just had a tree in the yard that I needed to cut down. And honestly, I'd never even used a chainsaw before. So I had to go buy a chainsaw thinking I'd probably use it once, maybe a couple more times, trim up some branches or something. So I just bought the cheapest electric chainsaw I could find. I went to Home Depot, I believe, and just bought something really inexpensive. And then decided to make a minion out of the stump that was left there. And that started the whole craze. I thought it was funny and cool, but then a lot of other people in the area thought it was really cool, and I was like, yeah, maybe I could make some stuff for Christmas presents for my family, so did that eventually, and then made it all the way up to 2020. I got furloughed from my job, and I decided to do it full time.
Nice. And with your other job that you had prior to this, or kind of like as you were transitioning into this, I mean, you have an artistic background, right?
Oh yeah. So I used to right out of high school, I went to an automotive trade school to learn how to do collision repair and refinishing. And when we got to the painting side of it, that's what I really wanted to do, is to learn how to paint. And then I got into the custom side of it. So first job out of that trade school was working for a motorcycle shop, and we built and painted high-end custom motorcycles. So I really got into the custom side of it and doing all the airbrushing and stuff like that. So, which I had gotten into airbrushing before I learned how to paint. I was airbrushing shirts and stuff like that. So, I've always drawn a lot, painted, airbrushed. I still have some of my paintings from when I was a kid, which is pretty cool to look back and see some of the stuff I did when I was 13, 14 years old, ages ago.
So very long ago.
Yeah.
So Josh, you do chainsaw carving. You had some art in the past. What is it that kind of draws you and kind of keeps you in the chainsaw carving part of things? Or do you do other art as well?
Yeah, I mean, just being able to create in general is something that's really drives me. So just being able to make whatever. So carving, obviously, you can go out there and make something in wood, and it can happen relatively fast. So I used to have a lot of patience when I was working on the motorcycles, because that stuff doesn't happen, in a couple hours. That's, weeks, sometimes months, putting something together. But I got into that chainsaw carving, and then all of a sudden, your patience runs low. It's like, I want to be done with this in the next 2 hours,
Sure.
But then I also, in my mind, I still like to take my time and do really nice pieces. I mean, you can do the production, knock out a bunch of eagles and owls and bears and stuff. But in my mind, I still want to put out some of the nicest pieces I can. The perfectionist in my upbringing has kind of gone to the side. I kind of embrace the imperfections in the wood, and I don't cover stuff up with paint anymore. I'm I like to see stuff happen from nothing. You take, whether it be a sheet of metal and you make it into a gas tank, or you take some pipes and you make it into a handlebars, and then it's evolved and you just take a log and carve it into a motorcycle, which I've done before. So it's that I guess that's what really drives me, is just being able to see something come from I don't want to say nothing, because it takes work to make
Sure.
a sheet of metal. There's plenty of other processes to make that sheet metal come about, and then years for a tree to be mature enough for us to harvest and carve. So it's not making something from nothing, but making something that doesn't look like art to people when they see it. But a
Sure.
lot of us carvers can look at a log and already see we can see the end result. We just need to bring it out of there.
Yeah, that was something I was going to actually ask you about, was because I know carvers have certain ways of, that inspiration of it. I know some carvers who will look at the log and say, okay, that looks like a fox or an airplane, or, whatever it may be. And like you said, draw that out of it. I know others who, they have an idea of what they want, and then they go looking for a piece of wood that has the attributes they need to make that. On that side, where do you fall in that? I mean, do you do all over the place, or are you more of that, here's a piece of log, what do I see in this piece of log?
There's that aspect, but then there's also the aspect of which I think this goes unnoticed a lot, is a lot of what carving has evolved into now is dissecting your log and making additions into it. So, I mean, here in the East Coast, we don't get really big trees like they do out on the West Coast. So we do rely on a lot of additions, and they still do it on the West Coast. It makes for more dynamic carvings. So looking at the log and knowing what and where you need to take off to leave your basic part of your carving, your sculpture there, but use that excess wood that you cut off to your advantage, to use that as additions to add on and make the log what it wasn't to begin with.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I guess fall somewhere in the middle. You can always look at logs, and I mean, for the most part, we've learned, how to make animals and other things lie in a log. You can learn the structures of animals and how to make them fit in a log. But then you can also make an animal or whatever it is, a motorcycle or something like that. You can look at that log and be like, all right, I know where I need to add this and that too. And every time I put
Gotcha.
my hands now, I think of Ricky Bobby. Sorry.
Well, and when, like, because you're known, I mean,
That's for Ryan Villiers. Sorry.
That was classic, by the way. So, and if you don't know what we're referring to there, then you have to follow us on Instagram. That's the way to find these things out. You have to make these things happen. Another great artist, by the way.
We have inside jokes that everybody needs to be part of. You got to follow along.
Yes. And along the whole story, because they'll keep evolving from there.
Like my little digs at Mitch, right. and he picks up on it right away.
Yeah. If you're gonna choose to carve an oak, you deserve it, right?
I mean, who brought him a full load of white pine for him to carve?
Yep. Who brought him a chunk of wood to carve from you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that chunk of wood made the white pine seem hard.
Oh, yeah.
Polonium is a whole different ball game to carve.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to ask you something else, but since we're on that subject of it, I can go back to the other one later. Paulownia, so your favorite, your wood of choice, which is not a wood that a lot of people even know exists. They don't know the name when they hear it. They think, oak, pine, maple, spruce, whatever. But Paulownia, people are like, what is that? So could you go into that a little bit?
Well, a lot of people that have carved it, there's two varying different opinions. They either hate it or they really like it. It carves fast. It is hard to detail right away. It's a fuzzy wood, but as it dries out, it will detail pretty good. But the characteristics that I really like of it, one, it does get really light, so it's a lot easier to move pieces around. If you have a trailer full of them, it's going to weigh half as much as what it would if it was pine. The characteristics that the main thing I like about it is it really doesn't crack much at all. And I will never say it won't crack, because it does. All
Sure,
wood
sure.
will crack as part of the drying process. Now, there's other things you can do to it to keep it from cracking, but if you did not do anything to any type of wood, they're all going to crack. Paulownia has a tendency of cracking very, very little. So in my mind, I'm trying to do nicer pieces for people. If they're going to spend the money on something, I want to give them the best product that I can. So I'd like to give them the wood that's fairly stable, that's not going to have some of the issues that other ones have. And then, if you never know at shows who's going to buy your piece. Will they go to pick up an oak, a small oak owl that you've done? I mean, they're going to be struggling to get that back to their car, versus the same size owl they can probably pick up one handed and carry back to their car with no problem. And it's that in no way was a dig at Mitch. Is sometimes we just don't. You can only carve what you have available to you. Sometimes it's hard to find good carving woods to work with. So all these other carvers that around the country that I see. I mean, I don't get redwood. Those guys on the West Coast. I mean, that stuff's apparently is a dream to work with. I can't wait to carve some of that. So they might dig on me for carving Paulownia. But we all carve with whatever we can find. It's part of the artist in us that we just, when I got into it, we'd drive by and you'd look down the road, you'd be like, oh, I'd carve that. Whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably, someone you're driving by and someone has a big stump sticking out of their yard, and you automatically wonder how. Now, well, speaking of that though, do you do with your medium with, obviously I know you carve a lot of palladium, but do you also do in-ground
Oh
carving?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I've carved my fair share of oak. Yeah, I do a lot of on sites and strangely enough, most of them are oak. I've done some maples. I tend to shy away from maple now. Just the more I learn about how different wood reacts, maple's not the best for longevity. So I've actually talked customers out of spending a lot of money on a sculpture because it's a maple one.
okay.
And I think that's just for my peace of mind. I hate to do something and spend a lot of time on it and have them spend a lot of money on it, and then in a couple of years it's rotting away, or it's turning black, because that's something that's characteristic of maple. But oak, I usually don't have a problem with carving oak on site. It's just moving it. It's just so heavy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, anybody who's moved an oak dresser or anything of that nature understands.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It is extremely heavy to get into place. Now, are there any common misconceptions that folks have, like someone who's watching this, listening to this, who is not a carver?
I think a lot of people look at carvers when they can do nice stuff. They're like, well, it's a you just picked it up and learned how to do it like right away. It's not, you didn't put all this effort into studying the things that you want to carve. They just think it, just because you can carve, it comes so natural. And for some people it does. It was a real struggle for me, just because of the type of art that I did before, which was 2D art, painting stuff on
yeah.
flat surfaces, which I can do and make things look 3D. I can make things look like, they're round on a flat surface. To when I picked up a chainsaw and had start, all of a sudden I went from this surface to I had to work all the way around it. It was that was the biggest struggle for me. And it's not as much of an issue now, but it was one of those things that was playing with my mind when I first started getting into carving.
That makes sense I hadn't thought about the 2D to 3D. I mean, obviously that, and then also the fact that you can, if you're drawing, you can take a little time with the pencil line, whereas, if you get that chain running, it's a little bit harder to go slow and focus on one little tiny spot. Well, and I mean, you like to do birds. Was that something right off the, I mean, because you did a minion, that was kind of your first, first carve. How did you get into the bird side of it? Is that being kind of your, your go-to?
I've never considered myself like one of those bird watcher guys. Sitting on the park on Saturday, and I'm not even going to be able to try to pull up some bird name, some weird bird name right now. Um, I don't. I think what it was. One of it is my area. We do have a lot of different types of birds here. The herons, the eagles, owls, cardinals. They're all over the place around here. I think what it was when I first really got into it. I'm patriotic. I like to do eagles, but I had one carving friend in particular that kept getting on my case. He's like, "You need to look at real eagles. If you're trying to carve an eagle, you better start studying eagles because yours are pretty bad." So I would look at them, and I thought I was doing a decent job of them. But when I look back at it, I was like, you know what, that's the type of friend that all of us artists need. Is you need somebody to tell you, hey, look, I like your effort, but you need some work. And
Yeah, we need
here's
those type of friends just in general now these
yeah,
days.
and we also need to be the type of artists that are open to that constructive criticism. So like a lot of carvers can get butthurt right away if you tell them like, look, it's okay, but you could really use some work there. Yeah, I don't know. Ever since that point, I've just been like, I'm going to make it a point of mine to do some of the nicest eagles that I could do, and I'm kind of getting known for eagles, and that's cool. But I want to carve other stuff too, and
Sure, sure.
I think I am going to break kind of out of that shell at a couple events coming up where people expect me to do eagles, and I mean I do them because I know they sell good and people want them, and I still love doing them. I really do enjoy doing them. But yeah, there's some other. I like some of the weird stuff, like it's another bird, but that ostrich with a saddle on it, and the motorcycle was cool. The Billy
Yeah, that
Gibbons was
motorcycle
cool.
was amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, the Billy Gibbons. I look back at it and I'm like, I carved that so fast, but I looked at it and I'm like, gosh, so many things proportionally that weren't right with
sure.
it. I mean, it was a cool, quick, kind of a quick carve, but I want to do nicer stuff. So I want to start pushing myself to do some different stuff. But birds are always going to be. I have become that guy that just likes looking at birds and driving, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
Right.
look at.
Yeah. Well, do
So
you
yeah.
now with your inspiration for the birds in the fact that you were talking about how you study and everything? I mean, do you look through books online, that kind of thing? Look at different pictures of like, okay, so if the like an eagle as an example, use that. Okay, what does an eagle look like when it's like grabbing a fish out of the water versus when it's flying, and seeing the different wing structures and things? I mean, do you study like that style of like going in depth with it?
So I do have a couple books that give the anatomy of, and all. This is an advice for anybody that wants to carve or draw. Um, and probably one of the best carvers in the world is going to tell you this is Scott Dow. Look at the anatomy, find out their structure and how their structure, their skeleton structure is. People, you don't think you're carving the skeleton structure of the animal, which you're not. But knowing how their body, their structure works is going to do nothing but help you in the carving aspect of it. Now, if you just want to be a cartoon carver, then you're probably not worried about proportions and all that stuff because it's cartoons. But if you ever get into like you want to make something, even if the eagle isn't like a realistic eagle, you still want to kind of have this is how their wings work. This is how
Sure,
when they're
sure.
soaring, that kind of stuff, and this is how their feet go. I've seen I don't know how many people carve the legs for an eagle that bend like a human. I'm like, well, they don't do that. So just with our cell phones in our pockets all the time, we have unlimited access to reference photos. So with those books that I have, I also, besides doom scrolling Facebook Marketplace, I will sit there and just look at different pictures of eagles or whatever I want to carve, photography pages, guys that go out and photograph nature, they are awesome to follow. One, they get some amazing photos, stuff that you would never see out in the wild. But yeah, they'll grab some cool pictures of poses that you've never seen in a book before, So
Oh yeah.
I definitely will follow a lot of photography pages. Mark Smith photography is one of my favorite ones to follow because he does take a lot of eagle and owl and ospreys, which are pretty cool to watch too. So
Right on. Do you do a lot of realism? Do you also do
well, I'll
abstract?
say this. I'll say this. I don't consider myself uh realism. There's very few carvers I think that do realism, and when they do it, they're really good at it. But it's all kind of our interpretation of, I can look at my
Fairy
eagles
tales,
and
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no. I don't consider my eagles realistic. They're my artistic version. I tend to play around with how their eyes are and stuff like that, and kind of enlarge some features of their faces and all to make them look cooler, as an art, as a sculpture. So that's why I kind of stick with that style of eagle and the cartoony style of bears. There are, I think, very few. I shouldn't say very few, but there's very few that I know of carvers that do realistic bears like very well. I mean,
Mhm.
Hoppy Quick, Jake Swanson.
Yeah, Hoppy definitely.
Hoppy's amazing, and I've never seen Hoppy carve anything that wasn't super cool. Whether it was his cartoony mushrooms that he does, um, Jeff Samadowski does really cool realistic bears. So there's those realistic carvers that I have a lot of respect for because I can see that they put the time into studying the real thing. It's not just going out there and doing cartoony stuff. Like they're putting the effort into studying anatomy and how, proportions. That's the kind of the biggest thing that a lot of seasoned carvers will look for, and especially at competitions, is like you might have a lot of detail in something, but if your proportions aren't right, who cares about the details because something doesn't look right, So and I'm not going to sit here and toot my own horn by any means because I struggle with the proportions too. So it's one of those things that you can tell when somebody puts forth the effort into studying what they're going to carve, and that's what I have a lot of respect for. Is that you can tell that they put in the time.
I gotcha. When we talk about competitions, something I want to ask you about because you recently did a competition not too long ago, here in the last couple of weeks, and you mentioned you had it was a large eagle piece that you did that you mentioned was I think it was a 15-hour carve, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we had 15 hours.
Yeah.
I don't think I
So
spent 15 hours on it, but
can you talk a
that's what.
little bit about that as far as that part of a competition? Like, did you go into that competition saying, "This is what I'm going to carve because I have this amount of time"? Like, talk a little bit about how that competition went for you.
Well, I wasn't sure of the total time that we had to work on the pieces until we got out there, and then all of us started talking about it. So we also had two quick carves to do a day, and not just 1 hour quick carves; they were hour and a half, which doesn't seem like a quick carve anymore, but hour and a half seems like a long time to carve. So we were squeezing a couple pieces in on each quick carve. So when we realized how much time we actually had to work on them, because I did have something in mind on doing out there. And then my biggest fear, I don't want to not finish a piece. I always want to I would rather be done with a little bit of time left or coming down to the wire, getting it done versus not being able to finish a piece. So probably could have pushed myself a little bit more on that one and done a more intricate piece. And maybe I could have placed on that one. That wasn't my goal. And when I do competitions, this might seem weird coming from a guy who grew up playing sports. Is I'm all about just hanging out with my friends and carving and the experiences. If I
Yeah.
place, that's cool. It's not a priority for me. I just want to do nice pieces for people that are going to spend the money on them. So I had a couple different ideas in my mind of what I wanted to do. I ended up going with it was a new kind of a new pose for me that I hadn't done before. Wasn't super complicated, but I figured if I could do this one and make it really nice, that it should auction off really well. Probably wouldn't place, and I was right. It didn't place, and I'm not concerned with that at all. I think they 100% got the judging right on that one. Marina Cole got first place, well deserved. Second place was Ryan Villiers, and third was Mark Culp. And I think they 100% got the judging right on that. And there's always controversy when it comes time to
Sure.
judge. Everybody's got you know,
Yeah.
their beefs with it, especially when you look through the internet. You look at pictures of stuff online versus actually being there in person and seeing stuff, in person. And not everybody knows the criteria either. So,
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and it's subjective. Anytime there's something that's subjective, it's,
like you can't get at the angles that judges can get at them and look at, overcuts on the bottom side of something, or this didn't have enough paint coverage on the bottom side of it or something like that. And then sometimes angles make things look proportionate, and then in person you're walking around, it's like, maybe not so much.
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but that event out there, the competition. I mean, one, I'll say this: that was we were treated absolutely awesome. That Montana was phenomenal to us. So we had a great time.
Was that your first time out in Montana?
I'd flown out to Libby, Montana a couple years ago with some friends and got to spectate for the Clash of the Carvers out in Libby. But that was my first time carving in
Nice.
Montana a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Right on. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, all the pieces I saw from that, because you were posting a lot of different pictures of different people's works, and then I saw some others, posting about it, and just, I mean, some phenomenal pieces, yours included. I mean, everybody's looked amazing from that event. And you had mentioned auction, and that's something else that I think that not a lot of people know about with a lot of these carving events is the auction side of it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can tell you that when we rolled into that town, a little bit of concern hit my brain. Is a very small town. Lincoln is a very small town, but it's a very tight community. And that's part of what this foundation that they did helps other people in the community, helps kids with that get cancer, and it brought everybody that's in that town there, and it also brought people from like states away, hours and states away to come in, and it was probably one of the better auctions that I've seen. It blew my mind to watch that happen. So we went from showing up to there's like 4 or 5 people walking around to all of a sudden the auction's there and it's packed. Like you can't walk
Nice.
around. But everybody there was really, really nice. They had, speaking of this event in particular, they had a great crew of guys helping cleaning up and moving carvings around, and helping with the auction and everything. But yeah, I noticed that auctions can vary depending on the area that you're at. I think that West Coast auction thing, they tend to bring a little bit more money,
Okay.
and maybe it's just people out there have more money to spend. I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind it. But I mean, I've never been to an auction where it was just so that much fun to watch
Nice.
pieces be auctioned off. I mean, us carvers were looking at each other like when bids were going up, and not just on the masterpieces. This is quick carves. I mean, some of the quick carves there were going for insane, and
Wow. Cool.
it is a part of it that they know that it's going to a good cause. I mean, granted, it was
Sure.
split
Yeah.
with us, like we were making money off of it too, but knowing that that it's a great cause that they're putting their money to, and they're getting cool pieces of art from it, I think definitely helped. That always helps an auction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and you mentioned, because you had mentioned to me back recently when we were talking, you had mentioned the auction aspect of it, of that being one of like kind of the highlights of when you go to these competition stuff. Like that's the part that you look forward to and kind of get you going. The most is that auction aspect, which has got to feel pretty good when you're standing there watching something that you've created, not only have interest and sell, but at the same time go towards a good cause to help somebody else.
And it's also the competitive part of us, and not how you think. It's, I think some people do want to see their piece go higher than their friends or whatever. But to me, it's one of those things that we just competed for the past 3 days making these pieces, watching 3 different people in the crowd compete against each other for voting. That gets intense, and it's so fun to watch.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, and speaking about competitions, I've got a question I want to ask you before we kind of wrap things up here. The question of the day, speaking of competition, since we're talking about that, I want to get your thoughts on it.
Uh-oh.
He's already worried about what I'm going to ask him. So yeah. It's an important question, though. I've been this is the one because I don't really write a lot of questions down. I like to just go where the flow is, and people know that from my interviews. I kind of just go with the flow, and it takes wherever it goes in the different directions.
Well, I know the answer to this, and Cody is definitely better at me than Bears, but I can beat him in the Eagle department any day.
Well, there's a subset that we talk about.
This is just to make sure he's watching.
I want to know the question I had. It's actually kind of funny you mentioned Cody, because the question has, in these competitions, what's it like going up against an absolute machine like Cody when it comes to carvings?
I mean, I love carving with my friends. Even though it could be Ridgeway where you're just out there having fun, or a legit competition, which we did a couple months ago. I was carving next to Cody, and we'd competed against each other a few times before. He surprises me every time because he's a I want to say a new carver, because he's not really new, but he's kind of a newer carver. But he's already proven he can go out there and hang. But he still surprises me every time. I'm like, man, you got that done a lot faster than I thought you were going to. I think we all push each other. We all, when you look over there and you see him an hour in on a piece, and he looks like he's 3 hours in on a piece, he's really moving a lot of wood. It pushes you to go faster and try to carve better and all. So that's the aspect of it I like is when you carve with your friends, especially ones that might be better than you in other areas of carving. That pushes you.
Well, in which I'm going to put you on the spot here for a question. Remember, the world is watching. In your estimation, top 3 carvers right now on the scene.
There's so many.
It doesn't have to be like any kind of particular order at all. Just
yeah.
If you were to say like 3 carvers that you were like, yeah, they're top of the game.
There's so many different variables to go with that, but Scott Dow is probably up there with one of the best. I hope he doesn't watch this because he's going to give me crap for saying this, but Ryan Villiers.
I'll make sure he sees it. Don't worry.
Wait till you see what he does in Libby. We were talking about his Libby piece. I hope that comes to fruition. Man, this might surprise a lot of people, but Taylor White's, I think she's doing some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, there's so many other carvers I could mention that I think would be in the top 3, but it's like a bunch of them are going to be tied for second and third and all that stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So,
well, that's what, and the thing is too, is that, it's one of those things I think where it changes depending on the day too. You're looking at somebody like, oh, I just saw so-and-so do this, like I just saw a post from Hoppy, speaking of Hoppy, Quick, doing the bear that he's working on right now, he's got that bear that he's been working on. That's, massive bear and just
I can't remember the name of that bear. But yeah, I know.
I was just thinking about it too as I said that. I can't. It's something, but I can't remember the.
I'll say this about Taylor. At least with that job in BC, she took her time with the paint job, and it wasn't atrocious. And whenever she sees this, she's going to understand what I meant with that.
I'll make sure this makes the cut for sure.
She nailed that job. It was phenomenal. I hope everybody can see that job she did soon. That was she was the right one for that job for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Well, and how can people find you? How can they connect with you? Someone sees this And
They can't find me.
they say, hey, like, hey, I want to work with Josh. I want to get something from Josh.
I'm elusive. They can't find me. Yeah, so you can find me Josh Miller on Facebook, and it's usually a couple eagles as my profile. Josh Miller Carvings, which technically right now, as we're speaking, it's still Art and Saw Chainsaw Carving, but I'm changing the name over to Josh Miller Carvings. And then on Instagram would also be Josh Miller Carvings.
And you can find that if you have any questions. Also, if you try and find him or something, can't find him, which obviously you can, because if you do chainsaw carvings, you'll see him everywhere because he's everywhere. It's kind of like a Visa. Is it Visa or MasterCard? Everywhere you want to be. Others, but y'all can reach out to me too. I can put you in connection with
Be like Cash. Be like Cash. It makes it easier because sometimes we carve at spots with no internet reception and you can't take a card. So bring Cash.
There you go. See, there's a good piece of advice. And know what and ahead of I think the other piece of advice too, ahead of time for people who are looking to buy a carving is kind of know ahead of time where you are going to, if you're going to put it inside or outside. Is it going to reside in your home or is it going to reside out on your front porch under the rain? Because that.
And I when I do custom projects, that's one of the questions I ask people: where are you putting it? Because it depends. That makes me make up my mind on how I'm going to finish it, what type of wood I'm going to use. Most of the time, it's Polonia anyway. But if it's going in there, if it's a piece that's going to go in their house, I do not want to use any white pine. There's several reasons for that. But yeah, that's one of my questions I ask for my decision-making process.
And one before I forget to mention that like totem style piece you did for that house. Speaking of custom carves where you had to like yard it up like 15 flights of stairs. That piece was awesome.
Yeah. That's a replica of Peter Wolftoth's Chief Little Owl that's down in Bethany Beach, Delaware. It's 24 feet tall, and this person had a custom home built. Funny thing was, she did send me a picture of her house, so I saw the first set of steps that it was going up. I thought that was it. So when we got up there, she's like, and it's going up those stairs over there too, to the third floor. Surprise to me.
So thank you for joining me for this episode of Lubrication Across the Nation. Folks, if you need to find out more information about Josh, you know how to get to him. And if you don't, you know how to get to me. You can find me. It's okay. So Lubrication Across the Nation brought to you by Dynamic Green Products, ChangeYourOil.com to find out all you can about the bio-based, biodegradable, amazing lubricants and cleaners that we have. So thank you, Josh. Appreciate you. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.